Ian was on the podcast when he was a top performer at Salesforce. He presented here at the summit last year and was by a long shot, #1 top-rated presenter. He impacted a lot of people with what he shared. So I asked him to come back. I don't want to steal his thunder, but the fact that he's opening after what he did yesterday is impressive. So, Ian, you ready to do this again?
I'm ready, baby. Let's go.
Let's make it happen.
All right. It's great to be here. Really great. Who was here last year? Raise your hand. Okay, you guys remember what I talked about? I hope it's not forgettable, but just for everyone who wasn't here, I shared my journey with addiction. And I shared my journey with self-worth and always kind of attaching my self-worth, my identity to my performance in sales and where that led me, right? It led me to always feel stressed, always feel overwhelmed. Even if I was successful, I never really appreciated it. I could hit big numbers and then it's like, it's what have you done for me lately? It was not good. And I made a lot of changes and I talked a lot about that last year. And here we are a year later. So what's happened in the past year? Well, yesterday I ran a marathon. That was pretty cool. Yeah. And I'm glad I have extra time because I wasn't planning on doing this content. It wasn't in the presentation, but I want to share my 5 lessons from running my first marathon with you guys because I think it applies to sales and there's a lot of takeaways. But a lot also has happened in the past year. Besides running a marathon, I quit Salesforce in September of last year, about a month before coming to this event. Well, since that time, I've built a 7-figure business. So my coaching business is now, it's sold out, and it's been awesome to be able to see a lot of people in this room are part of the program, but that was my first time as an entrepreneur, right? Which is hard if you're in sales and you have structure and you have everything kind of laid out for you versus starting a business from scratch. So I was able to start a business, run a marathon. My marriage is in the best spot it's ever been in, and I almost had lost. Thank you. So a lot of good shit's been happening, let's put it that way. And it's all because of habits and mindset, really, mindset and habits. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And it's just such an important topic that I just thought we could triple down on it. In fact, I ran a survey on LinkedIn maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. 2,300 people replied. And the survey question was, what is the main reason, the #1 reason people underperform in sales? And I had 4 answers. The first was mindset. In other words, what you think. The second is habits, is what you do. Or skills, selling skills, how you do it. Okay, and out of the group, 50% out of 2,300 people said habits. And I actually do agree with that. So that's why we're here. That's why I want to talk about habits. You're going to get a lot of selling skills from everyone else, but this stuff applies to not just your sales, but your life. So I hope everyone can walk away from today with some really healthy, positive habits that'll make you feel good, regardless of how much you're selling, where you are in the month, the year, how things are going on. Because ultimately, we are what we repeatedly do. And excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. That's from Aristotle. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to share 5 lessons that I learned from my marathon. So if you can grab your packets and look at the first sheet. You don't have to look at it in detail yet, but that's where we are right now. So a lot of people want to know where confidence comes from. The first lesson is, anyone ever run a marathon in here? Raise your hand if you have. Awesome. Half? Anyone full? Keep your hand up. So we have 5 people. It's about 5%. And then half, another few people. So running a marathon is not something you just do, okay? You don't just say, I'm going to wake up and sign up for a marathon. And that's not the way this works. So the first lesson is, I didn't run my marathon just in 2022. I started with a 10K. I started with 6.6 miles. That was back in 2019. Then COVID hit and everything was canceled. And then 2021, I did a half marathon. And then 2022, signed up for my full. So the question, where does confidence comes from? It comes from setting goals and keeping your word to yourself. And once you increase your baseline of what's possible, that becomes the new standard. Okay? So don't go and try and be perfect. Start with what you can do and do it. And then that alters and shifts your identity, and then you can aim bigger and bigger and bigger. That's the first lesson, okay? Is our standards get raised when we set goals that are attainable and we keep our word to ourselves. That's key. So I just want to know that. If you want to make $1 million in sales and the most you've ever made is $150,000, set a goal of making 2 or 250 or 3, hit it, and that becomes your baseline. There's a guy I follow, Ed Milet. He talks about this. We all have an internal thermostat. That's the level we operate from. Okay, and when we raise our temperature and that becomes a standard, then we can keep raising it. So the only way to raise your temperature or shift your identity is to set goals that get you out of your comfort zone and then achieve them. And the second thing is to surround yourself with people who are operating that higher temperature. So that leads to lesson number 2. You'll see in front of you a sheet, okay? And that was my marathon training plan. It was 18 weeks of training. And it was by a guy named Hal Higdon. Now, Hal Higdon is probably the world's leading marathon coach for marathon runners. So what I did is first I tapped my network and I said, who's run marathons before? And I started picking their brains and, what do I need to prepare? And then someone told me, hey, just follow Hal Higdon's schedule. Okay, and I said, great, I'll do that. So I did. It was really, really simple. Lesson number 2 is if you want it, once you set an ambitious goal outside of your comfort zone, find somebody who's done it before and who teaches others how to do it. And then part 2 of that is get their plan, get their playbook, get their roadmap. You see, you're all here, you're getting each other's roadmap. But what happens when we leave here? Okay? I fundamentally have followed this principle for the past 6 years. It's called modeling. Okay? You model the people successfully before you. Find 1 or 2 people. Don't get a million pieces of content from 100 people. Find the person that's doing what you want to do and get their playbook, get their plan, and follow it. You see, it was easy for me to run a marathon because I had the exact schedule and I had faith and belief that if I followed and stuck to the training plan, it would be easy. And when I was running that marathon, I promise you, it was purely muscle memory. I had been there so many times before running. I knew how my body felt. I knew how my mind felt. I knew where my threshold was because I stuck to 18 weeks of training 5 days a week. So it's find the mentor, have faith, get the plan, and execute for anything you want to do in any area of life. I promise you, that is the key. So that's number 2. Number 2. Lesson number 3. And now we're getting to the good stuff. All right, so the training plan. I have a couple little weeks circled. Okay, I have a couple weeks circled here. One of those weeks, I think it was like 3rd week or 4th week. It's not circled, but I was running. I was like getting into it. I was really excited to get one of my first big runs. And as I'm running, maybe a mile into it, a gnat goes into my eye. Okay? But he didn't just go into my eye where he can get out. He got under my eyelid right here. So he's like way wedged up there. All right? And I'm running, and it's like burning. And I'm running, and then all of a sudden, I can't see clearly. It's like completely clouding and itching. I'm trying to get it out and I just can't see anything. And I was so set on just staying and running. I'm like, I don't want to stop. This sucks. I was timing myself. I was on this training plan. But I couldn't see, and I was in pain. So I ran for maybe a mile or 2 with this gnat in my eye, and then I literally was running like this with my eye closed. I get to the bathroom, finally, and I flush my eye. I flip my eyelid, get the gnat out, and then throw some water in the eye, and then I was off to the races. I could see clearly, okay? And it made the run so much easier. So here's the lesson in that. See, it's not about the marathon. The marathon was pretty anticlimactic, to be honest. It was all about the training and the prep leading up to it. That was the key. So that's not really one of the 5 lessons, but I will tell you this. The joy is in the journey. The joy is in the journey of growing and becoming your best self. That is where the gift lies. And when you live that way, you're not going to be attached to outcomes because you're growing and you're winning every day. Okay? So fundamentally, when I talk about the joy being in the journey, it was all these lessons that I learned during training. So I clear it out. Well, you probably know where I'm going with this. The lesson is simple. When you're on your way to your goals, if something is clouding your vision, if there's something that is causing you not to see straight, you need to take a step back and flush the gnat out of your eye and take care of yourself. Okay? And how does this apply? It means like if your relationships need tending to, you are not going to show up your best self at work. If your marriage is in a bad place, you're not going to show up as your best self if your health is in a bad place. You're not going to show up if your mental health is being compromised and you have addictions that you're not dealing with. Okay? But when you take a step back and work on yourself, you can come back way stronger. But you have to clear out and give space and time to whatever's clouding your vision and attend to it. That's lesson number 3. Lesson number 4. Now we get to the circled one. So there's 2 circle, like kind of mid-training. I think it was right around this period of week 11, okay? This was where things got a little shaky in my training. So I go to Yosemite with my family. Beautiful Airbnb, and I'm like so stoked to go running in Yosemite. I was so excited. Well, it happened to be the hottest year of the year in summer in Yosemite. So it's about 90, 95 degrees. And my training in the middle, it was a Wednesday, was 8 miles, okay? And I was so excited for this training in Yosemite. I was going to run around Yosemite Valley, which is just gorgeous. Glaciers all around. You got El Capitan, you got Half Dome. And I was just like, this was going to be my best run ever, going to Yosemite. So I get there, wake up, watch the sunrise over, it's called Tunnel View, get down to the valley, park my car, ready to rock and roll, start my run. We're all good. I don't mind the heat, no big deal. But what I did mind is the minute I started running, a hive of gnats. See, we have a theme. We have a theme going on here of gnats. And I did shower this morning, so it wasn't me like going around. A hive of gnats was around my head. And I'm not talking like 1 or 2. I'm talking probably 30 or 40, like around. And I'm like, shit, this sucks, okay? I'm running and I'm smacking and I'm swatting in eyes and ears. And I literally put my mask on. I put they're going under my sunglasses and through my ears. And I'm running and they're just like a windshield going into my face. And I'm like, I can't do this. I got to get on the bus. There's I was around the valley, and you can just hop on a bus and go to the lodge and chill. And I'm just thinking, I can't do this. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do it. Part of my language. I might say a few F-bombs today. But fundamentally, I'm running the whole time, 8 miles, with a hive of gnats around my head the whole time, smacking, swatting. And finally, I just said, forget it. I'm not going to try and fight it. And I just sat with the gnats, and I just started running and kept in it, and they're all around me. And it was the most painful thing that I've ever done. Okay, I mean it. In terms of like mental toughness, mental resilience, by far. Okay? But here's the gift, and here's the fourth lesson, is if I had stopped, I wouldn't have that experience. After that experience, every single run was easier. Because I had a frame of reference of extreme pain and extreme frustration that I had gone through. So the lesson for number 4 is you sit with the pain. If you try and avoid the pain, if you try and escape the pain, you don't get the lesson. Because when you have pain and you're out of pain, pleasure feels that much greater. And we're going to talk a lot about pain and pleasure today. But you can't experience joy if you don't have pain. And that's the beauty of it. If you sit with the pain, everything after becomes better. Everything afterwards. So when I was running my marathon yesterday and my legs cramped up and I couldn't feel them, it was the most painful things. All I kept telling myself was, it's better than the gnats. That's the truth. I was comparing it to all that. I'm like, this is not bad. Like, I can't feel my legs. What's the big deal? At least there's not things flying in my eyes and my ears. So if I hadn't sit with the pain, then I would not have that to draw upon, okay? It's like if you're sick. If you ever get sick for a week or two and you're better afterwards, you feel so good just to be normal. You guys know what I'm talking about? So it's the same kind of thing. So sit with the misery, sit with the pain, which gives you perspective on everything else. That's lesson number 4. And these are lessons for life, for training, for sales. If you've got a bad situation in your company, don't run from it. Grow from it. Step up. Get stronger. Those are the best times. The best times are when you sit and you learn the lesson. But you gotta sit and you gotta adapt. That's the truth. My adapting was I stopped swatting my head. I just was able to sit with it like an ice bath. You're sitting in an ice bath and you fight it, or you can just kind of leave your body and just notice it from the outside. So that was the opportunity. And the 5th lesson, and then we'll get into habits. And this is my favorite lesson. So I was so stoked about the marathon. I cannot even tell you how much I planned for this. I rented really nice hotel rooms, not just for me, but for my family, because I dreamt of having my family waiting for me at the finish line. I have 2 boys, 2 and 6, and my lovely wife, Sandy. They're amazing. And that's all I wanted, was them to be there with me when I cross, because I've been working so hard. Well, what happens this past week? Not good. Everyone got sick in my house, including me. Okay? So I'm on my last week. It's Monday. I'm coughing. My wife's coughing. So my training routine gets disrupted, and I have to take a step back, apply what I learned to heal a little bit, and not follow the exact rigid schedule. But my goal was to do all the trainings on that schedule, check off every box. And so I took 2 days off, and instead of training Wednesday and Thursday and letting my legs rest Friday and Saturday, I got better Wednesday and Thursday and then trained Friday and Saturday. Well, unfortunately, my family doesn't have the same immune system, and they were still sick. So I asked my wife, I'm like, can you make it? Can you please come? And she's like, no, I'm not going to get great sleep in the hotel room, and the kids, they're sick. It's not a good thing for anyone. I'm like, okay, it is what it is. So the first thing I did is I found a buddy that was running with me, and I gave him the hotel room. I didn't charge him. I said, okay, you're in it. It's your lucky day. Second thing is I didn't give it, you roll with the punches. My wife wasn't there, but at the end of the day, that's just more inspiration to go do another one when she can be there. Okay? So so you roll with the punches, and you have to be flexible. I was flexible with my last week training plan. I was flexible with the hotel. Well, it gets worse. I get to the hotel, and last night, or 2 nights ago, there's this loud banging, like construction going on outside the hotel room. I'm on the 12th floor. I'm in the penthouse, like beautiful room, and somehow we're facing the city. I don't know what was going on, but there was like this big banging. I'm like, I can't sleep. And I was already adrenaline racing from getting ready for the marathon. Now I can't sleep. I got some earplugs. I ended up falling asleep like 12:31, maybe getting 4 or 5 hours sleep. I woke up twice during the night, okay? So if I had been stressing about the plan, I would be in a really bad spot for the marathon. I didn't sleep. I feel crappy. My family's not here. What's the point of all this crap, right? But what would that have done for me in the marathon? What would that have done? Zilch, right? Absolutely nothing. So instead, you take the mindset of it's just part of the challenge. This is just part of the story. And now I get to share this story up on stage with you guys. Okay? And that's how I live my life. The problem is the gift. The problem is the gift. The problem is the opportunity. It just made it that much sweeter when I crossed the finish line with my best time ever. I had 2 goals. The first goal was to not stop running. The second goal was to do under 5 hours. And I'm proud to say I finished in 4 hours and 34 minutes and 32 seconds with this marathon. On virtually no sleep, because of my habits, because of that schedule, because of the training I'd done for years before that. So lesson number 5 is be flexible. If you aim for perfection, you are going to fail. There's no such thing as perfect. It never works out the way we want. It never does. Sorry. That's life. Life's always going to throw us curveballs. That's just the way it goes. Okay? But if you can be flexible, and not be rigid in terms of it has to be this way, you are going to be a lot less stressed, a lot happier, and actually do a lot better. So if you have a morning routine, if you don't get all 5 things done in your morning routine, so what? Do 2, do 3. It's better than doing 0. Progress, not perfection. Always progress, never perfection. All right, those are my 5 lessons. So is that helpful for everyone? Cool. So now we're going to get into some really good stuff. So here's the survey results that I talked about. So out of all the salespeople, and there's a lot, I probably have 95% of my followers are just salespeople, sales professionals. So 87% attribute underperformance to mindset and habits. That's why what I teach is so effective. And I'm going to share exactly what you can do. See, what's more important? Is it the chicken or the egg? Mindset or habits? There was a lot of debate going on in this. People say, well, you can't get good habits without mindset. And I agree. I agree to some extent. So mindset is foundational. But here's the kicker. When you have good habits, your mindset changes. Your mind actually changes as a result of what you are physically doing. Okay? That's the truth. So you actually can change your mindset through good habits. That's why I vote for habits, because you get more confidence, you feel better about yourself, you also feel better physically if you're taking care of yourself, if you're exercising or meditating or spending time with your loved ones. We're going to talk about all those good habits that help you feel better, which is mindset. That's all mindset is feeling better. So if you think, okay, I commit to my habits and do something for 30 days, I promise you, I guarantee it. And I can't guarantee a lot in life, but I guarantee you, if you adapt one new healthy, positive habit for 30 days straight, you will feel better and your mindset will shift. That's why I picked mindset. But the two are very, very much interwoven. So why am I giving this presentation? Well, this is, I guess, apart from what I've done. So I'm the Dean of Pavilion's Enterprise Sales School, and at Salesforce, I was their former #1 account executive and sold over $100 million with myself and my team. So I have some background, but my real strength is not my selling skills. I don't think that is. It's my mental toughness, my resilience. And specifically, I've been a habit guinea pig since 2020. And really before then, it really started in 2017 when I first was introduced to personal development, but I had horrible habits. And if anyone was in the training last year, I talked about what I used to do. I talked about, specifically, if you look at the second to last bullet at the bottom, I'm ADHD, okay? And I was using Adderall as a way to be productive, okay? And to like force myself to work physically. Because if I wasn't on Adderall, I would have many windows open. I would start something and I'd stop in the middle of it. I would procrastinate like crazy. I was the guy who, if there was a QBR and we had to prepare, I was doing it the night before at like 2 a.m., okay? And just why do I do this to myself? Or I would only work well if I had a deadline. I was stressed. I was running on 2 speeds. I work my hardest when I have to, or if I wasn't, then I would be coasting. It was like all in or all out. And my life was a roller coaster. It was very high highs and very low lows. And I'm like, I cannot keep living this way. So I've devoted the better part of 3 years to really changing how I operate, okay? And I'll tell you why this is so important. Because I always would beat myself up. And I was never happy. At the end of the day, I always beat myself up because of what I wasn't doing, what I wasn't getting done. I didn't stick to the plan. I didn't execute my plan. I didn't prospect. I didn't do X, Y, and Z. And I was just in this I would self-sabotage and I beat myself up. So I said, I got to stop this. So in February 2020, I got into addiction recovery. And when I went into that, everything changed. I started going into therapy. And this isn't about a talk about addiction. I gave that last time. So you'll have to go back and hear the recording from last year if you want to hear that one. But let's just say I realized it wasn't just one thing. It was everything that I was doing. I was just this compulsively addicted person. And so I'm going to help answer 4 questions today that I know I had to answer in my own life. And I think a lot of salespeople struggle with these questions. The first is, why is it so damn hard to stay disciplined? It's the first question. The second question is, why do I have trouble focusing? Why can't I just complete the thing at hand? The third question is, why is deep work so difficult? Anyone know what deep work is? We're not streaming. So let's take a volunteer. What would you say deep work is?
Like being in that flow state, really working on important problems.
Yeah, thinking work. It's something you have to think about. So deep work would be I'm coming up with a storyline for an executive meeting. I'm doing some really good email copywriting, for a post that I'm doing. I am creating a business case. I'm really strategizing, brainstorming. Anything you have to think with, like really think. That's deep work. I'm writing, right? So here's the challenge. Here's the challenge. It's not your fault. With those 4 questions, when we ask about this, when I tell you about this stuff, what you need to know is it's not your fault. In fact, it has nothing to do with you. So today we're going to take a different look and a different perspective on why these things are so hard to do. And I promise you, it has to do with overconsumption, specifically compulsive overconsumption, and the effect it has on our brains. You see, this is what was happening to my brain, and I didn't even know it. And it's happening to many people in this room. Okay? And so I'm going to challenge everyone, rather than giving you a bunch of habits and new stuff you can adapt, I'm going to challenge you to think differently and think about what you can subtract. Okay? And specifically, I want to talk about dopamine. Anyone read this book, Dopamine Nation? Raise your hand. 2 people. What do you guys think? Jack? Game changer. Game changer. Pick up the book. If you do nothing else out of this, and you'll understand what's going on. So I'm going to give you a summary of the book. I'm going to give you my best summary as I can. We are living in a world of overwhelming abundance. We literally can get whatever we want at the fingertips, at the push of a button. Whether it's information, whether it's connections, whether it's dating, whether it's, anything, whether it's games, okay? The smartphone is the modern day hypodermic needle delivering digital dopamine 24/7 for a wired generation. So when we want to go on our phone or go to a website or be distracted, it's because those things make us feel good. It's the bottom line. We've become so accustomed that our brain can't sit still and just be. So let's talk about, now this slide may not work, I hope it does, but I did a very fancy slide. So we're going to talk about the brain. This slide took me a long time. So there's something in our brain called the pleasure center. There's the ventral tegmental area, the VTA, or the nucleus accumbens, the NAC. This is where dopamine gets released and spread in our brains. That's all you need to know about it. And when you're constantly pressing on the lever, here's what it looks like. It's working. Yes, okay. I'm not a PowerPoint guy, so that was a big deal. All right, so we're constantly pressing on the pleasure level. Well, why? Because we feel good when we do. We feel energized, we feel euphoric, we feel excited, we feel motivated. Dopamine is tied with motivation. Now, are we motivated to do deep work? Hell no, we're motivated to keep doing what we're doing. So if we're scrolling, we're motivated to keep scrolling because we feel good, we want more of that. That's called building a tolerance in the world of addiction. We're building tolerance. We want more and more of the thing that feels good. Okay? And when we think about in sales, the way I equate this part of the brain to is anything that gives you instant gratification is giving you dopamine. These are things like checking our phone, our text, Slacks, emails, DM, any kind of busy work that we feel like we're getting stuff done, we're getting some dopamine, going on social media, going on LinkedIn. I still struggle with that one. Content consumption is a huge one. Huge, because it's all great content. It's really good content. It's easy to consume. But are we really doing it because we want to learn, or are we doing it to avoid what we need to be doing as a default? Because we've gotten so used to content consumption. Okay? And then there's video games, sports, podcasts, Netflix, you name it, it's all there. And we could literally live there. These are the pleasure centers of the brain. Just know what's going on here. Now, here's the problem with this whole situation. Our brain is trying to maintain homeostasis or equilibrium, a balance between pain and pleasure. So if you think of it as a scale, pain and pleasure, if we are always hitting our pleasure receptors, what happens when we're just sitting still? What happens when we're just sitting at our desk trying to work on some deep work? How does it feel? Painful, really hard, way harder than it should because our brains are trying to balance out all this pleasure. So now the normal things feel freaking painful as all hell. This is what's happening in our brains. Okay? And we are doing it. We are self-doing it, but it's not our fault. We're not even aware of this. So that book, Dopamine Nation, and there's a guy named Andrew Huberman who talks all about this. He's a neuroscience at Stanford. And it's fascinating what's happening. They're doing brain scans. So the problem is that by pursuing pleasure all the time, we're actually creating greater pain for ourselves when we're not in that pleasure. Okay? That's the challenge. There's a bigger problem here with this whole situation. There's a bigger problem here. So when we're not in dopamine, we're feeling bored or restless or anxious or uneasy or difficulty focusing or simply tired. I want to take a nap. That social media scrolling was exhausting. Okay? Is this interesting to you guys? I find it fascinating. I really do. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with the brain and why this is happening. Because I'm like, it explains. It gives a lot of like explanation of why we feel and do the things we do. But here's the bigger problem. This is what scared the crap out of me when I learned about it. Executive functions or deep work is going on in a different part of the brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for delayed gratification or decision making, future planning, problem solving, storytelling, and emotional regulation. Like, why am I so hot-tempered? Why am I snapping at my family? Well, that part of the brain wasn't getting used. So my emotional regulation. So the things salespeople hate to do, planning, account planning, QBRs, all the strategic work, developing a point of view, prospecting to executives, it's like, there's a reason. Because we're not using that part of our brain. We're not using the prefrontal cortex. Okay? And when you don't use something, what happens to it? Atrophy. There's a scary visual. Prefrontal cortical atrophy is what happens. It means that these connective neurons, the connective tissue in our brain, is not being used. It's like a language. It's really hard to learn. You practice it, it becomes normal and fluid, and then you don't use it, you forget about it. Those executive functions are literally not getting used. That is the bigger risk here, is prefrontal cortical atrophy. We're not using these parts of our brain that actually help us sell more and create better relationships and establish ourselves as a trusted advisor to our clients. It's not being used. So we're just on this autopilot. It's the difference between transactional selling and strategic selling. That's the difference. Transactional, you got volume, you're getting dopamine all the time, you're calling people, closing deals. That is not the world most of us live in if we're selling software and we're selling to the enterprise. So this part of our brain feels really hard and we just want to default to what we're normally doing. Okay? So that is the risk. That is the greater risk. And this slide kind of tells it all. So if you're not comfortable doing this deep work, it's because you're not used to doing it. It's because you're not prioritizing it. It's not something that you it's part of your day. It's not part of your routine. It's not part of what you're doing. You're just living in the left. Okay? So understanding why we do the things we do and why deep work is so hard, I think, is really powerful. Now the question is, what do we do about it? Okay? Well, if you think about the left bucket is consumption. We are consuming. We are taking stuff in. We are consuming email, consuming Slack, consuming content, consuming tasks, consuming meetings. The right side is creation. We are creating. We are writing. We are storytelling. We are creating something from nothing with our accounts, creating a vision, creating a plan, creating a strategy, creating a roadmap. That's the work. Anyone know Brandon Fluharty? Yep. Yeah, you guys know. He's amazing. I had him speak to my group. He was here last year. He talks a lot about deep work. That is the work most people don't want to do because it feels hard. But I promise you, the more you do it, the easier it's going to feel. Okay? So that's creation versus consumption. All right? It's working. So this is, can you imagine? So here, real story, this is deep work. Me sitting and creating these slides and doing animation and trying to figure out how to tell this story with one slide is freaking hard. And it's not something I want to do, but it's more important that you get value from my talk than me wanting to do a PowerPoint. So make it about other people. Think about the other people on the line. Think about the other people that your work is helping, not yourself. Selfishness is on the left. On the right is abundance and service. Okay? So the key is a little pleasure, a little pain. A lot of pleasure means a lot of pain. Just remember that image, all right? So when you live this way, and this is the way I've been living for many years, and you'll hear why in a second when you see what I've done. When you live this way, the highs feel a lot lower and the lows feel a lot higher. And I can tell you it feels a lot better living that way than living on the roller coaster of emotional craziness, okay? So I'm going to teach you exactly what you can do to apply this. Does that sound good to everyone? Yes. All right, so let's talk about application. So the prefrontal cortex is the last thing to develop in the brain. Anyone have kids here? Most people, many people. That's why our kids want immediate, instant gratification. It's not developed yet. They have their pleasure center riding all day long. And this is us, the adult sales world. Okay? Now here's what you need to know. It's a great book by Robert Burke called Mastery. Mastery talks about all the most successful geniuses of our time. And talk about, I think it's 10,000 hours, or like 10 years is the amount. But what you need to understand is that mastery requires repeatedly working on mundane things. If you want to master something, it's not going to be fun. That's the bottom line. So you need to master discipline and delayed gratification. If you do that above anything else, any skills, any mindset, if you can master your ability to delay gratification and do the hard things anyway and do them first, you are going to be wildly successful in sales. I've seen it. I've seen zero coaching. Where's Ryan? Ryan, raise your hand. Ryan's in the back there. I'll talk about Ryan's story in a minute. But I've seen literally people just work on that one thing and everything changes after that. Okay? So that's the key. So what are the takeaways from part one? Number one is the relentless pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain leads to pain. Number two, facing your pain directly and sitting with it makes you stronger, aka beehive of gnats. Number three, overconsumption of dopamine can reduce our ability to plan and focus and maintain emotional regulation. Number four, here's the good news in all this. The good news is neuroplasticity is real. What fires together wires together. I'm 43 years old. I just ran my first marathon. I'm speaking and running a business now for the first time. I'm doing things I've never done before. I'm forming new neural pathways in my brain, okay? This stuff is forever. You're not, just because you're built some way doesn't mean you can stay that way forever. Trust me, I come from a family of addicts and I have the genes in every male in my family. Unfortunately, almost everyone has died from addiction. My father, my cousin, my brother's heading that way. So it's not just your genes. We're not just wired. You can change this stuff. You can, okay? But it requires a lot of effort and a lot of discipline. So when you do that, you can form new neural pathways. That's the cool news, okay? So just because you have an addictive personality or you have certain tendencies or you're set doesn't mean your brain can't change. Your brain is very, very malleable. It can change. All the science there. So it's really exciting. That gives me hope. And one way to change it is what's called a dopamine detox or a dopamine fast. Okay? Dopamine detox. So what is a dopamine detox? Well, I talked about me being a human guinea pig. And I've gone through this in many forms. But habit number one, I'm going to teach you 5 habits today. Habit number one is what's called addition by subtraction. So instead of worrying about what to add, worry about saying no to the things that no longer serve us, that actually take us away from our goals, so we can say yes to the things that we do care about and that do serve us. That is the key. okay? So every time you say, I don't have time to go hang out with my family, or I don't have time to go train for a marathon, I don't have time to meditate, I don't have time to journal, I don't have time to do deep work, or this and that, you're full of shit because you are choosing to spend your time in other ways. We all have the same amount of time. I challenge everyone. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. And I sleep. Sleep is important to me. So it's not like I'm one of those guys that doesn't sleep, okay? Every time you're saying yes to one of those dopamine levers, you're saying no to your long-term goals. You're saying no to your investments in your real estate or wherever you want to put your money. You're saying no to being present with your loved ones. You're saying no to your health. Just remember that. Don't fool yourself. So by identifying the things that actually take away our time, that's a great way to start. It's a great place to start. So this is what I've done as a human guinea pig, okay? I started 32 months ago with porn. I said, porn is not helping me in my marriage. It's not helping my relationship. I shared this in great detail last year, and I stopped. That was what I went into recovery for 32 months ago. And I'm proud to say it's been 32 months, and I haven't looked at any kind of porn. So that was where I started. Thank you. I have one person clapping. It's not good for your brain. Anyone wants to talk about that offline, you can come find me anytime. I'll tell you what's happening. That's like dopamine to the max, okay? But it wasn't just that. That was where I started. Then I realized, wait, getting drunk has no longer served me. Now, when I say sober, I'm talking about porn. I'm not talking about alcohol, but I haven't gotten drunk in 32 months. I might have a glass of wine with dinner, right? But I have no desire to go and do that to my body and my brain anymore. Same with smoking pot. Now, I'm not here to judge. Everyone's got what they're doing. But if you are doing something that's taking you out of your goals and your vision and you don't feel good about it, those are the candidates you want to think about subtracting. Those are the candidates. Adderall, once I stopped the other stuff, I just flushed it down the toilet. It was July of 2020. And I'm like, this is just an addiction. I'm only doing this so I can get through the day. I got to figure this out. And that's when the real work started, okay, once I got rid of the Adderall. So it's been 32 months. Now, this stuff comes back. It's not like it's just disappearing forever. Like I said, right? You start with one thing, and then you can build up to other things. So the video games. I played a lot of video games, and then I stopped video games. Well, my son is 6 years old. Guess what he likes to do? Play video games. So we started playing with him, and we've had this little game on our phone. It's called Golf Clash. We like playing Golf Clash, okay? And then it was on my phone because my wife didn't want it on her phone because we were playing with her phone. So I put it on mine. Well, guess what happened to me when I had it on my phone? Came back like that. Like 2 hours in a row, binging, staying up. I'm like, oh, man. So I'm like, this isn't good. Sorry, buddy. We're going to have to take this off. So now we have that figured out. So he can play, but it's not on my phone. So my point is those tendencies are going to be there. They're going to come back. You don't just change all the time, okay? So it's progress, not perfection. All right, so the video game thing, I deleted. I said, I can't have this, and I got rid of it. And I'll tell you why that's important in a minute. Same thing with Facebook. I took Facebook off my phone, took Instagram. But I'm not saying cut off everything. I'm saying cut off the binging and the overconsumption. Everything in moderation, right? But if you have one thing you do too much and you don't feel good about, that is a great candidate for that. I had a lot of things. that I was doing that I wasn't proud of. So I got rid of all the stuff on the left, genuinely, except LinkedIn. That's still my Achilles, okay? LinkedIn's really hard. LinkedIn's really hard. LinkedIn is, I'm getting clients from it, and I'm posting content. It's like, okay, I can justify it. But genuinely, the stuff on the left is gone. It's gone for me. And it's been, like I said, 32 months. So what's changed now? Because I got rid of those things, look what happened on the right. Look what happened, and look what I was able to add. So before I show the right, think of habits. Write down something. These are the candidates, things that give you an artificial high, deplete your energy. Not create energy, but deplete your energy. Shame is a big one. If you feel bad about yourself, about something you're doing, that is a great telltale that you probably could delete it or subtract it, okay? A lot of times these things are done in isolation. I'm sitting on my phone at the expense of my family, right, doing this. So those are the kind of things that you want to think about. And the other thing is you feel crappy afterwards. You feel energy drained, Okay, these things maybe give you immediate pleasure, but they make you feel worse in the long run. So if we're not doing those, what are we doing instead? Well, this is the beauty of all this. Healthy habits and healthy routines. So because I was able to subtract the stuff on the left, it gave me space and time to add things that, man, make me feel alive and strong. And these are the things I took up. I took up running. I talked about that, right? Took up running and just ran my first marathon yesterday. Also took up cold showers, which are very, very good for you. Prayer and meditation, 2 things I do every day. I was just meditating earlier with Daniel in the Airbnb, right? Keep that morning routine. Quality sleep. I have lunch every day with my wife for an hour, every single day, without fail, okay? So it's all about where you want to put your time. This summer, we've seen Pink Floyd. We just saw Roger Waters a few weeks ago. We saw Santana. We saw Red Hot Chili Peppers. We saw Dead & Company with John Mayer. We're going to concerts nonstop, forging our connection. And it works. It really works. It's fun. It's a natural high. Listening to music, dancing, just enjoying ourselves. Family vacations. We've gone, again, we'll probably do 8 or 9 vacations this year. Okay, some weekend getaways, some longer vacations. And radical honesty. See, the cool thing about this is when you got nothing to hide, you're free. You can sit in your authenticity. You can be real. But it takes sitting in the fire. It takes taking a step back and getting rid of those gnats, which is the left side. Okay? So my life has transformed. These are the candidate habits you want to add. So if we think about what to subtract, what do we want to add? We want to add things that make you feel good, natural high, provide you with energy, create intimacy with your loved ones, intimacy. Things that you can be present for and that you feel great afterwards. Okay? So the simple act of going on a Friday with my family to watch the sunset probably wouldn't have felt as good before when I was doing the stuff on the left. But now it's like I really look forward to it and really enjoy it. It feels so good. It's like enjoying the simple pleasures. A walk, a bike ride, a sunset, a hike, a meal. That's life. All this crap on the left wasn't there 100 years ago. This is just the society we're in now. And it's not getting any better. It's getting worse and worse. Okay? So we got to take a step back and get to really what matters. If you want to know what 3 things make people happy in the long run, there's 3 things. Okay? Number 1 is connection, by far. Meaningful connection with your family, with your friends, with your loved ones, with your partner. Okay? Making time for connections. That's why I have lunch with my wife and we do all these date nights. The second thing is growth. Feeling like we are growing and getting better and getting stronger. Feeling like we are becoming ourselves. And the third thing is contribution. Feeling like what we do matters. That's why I'm up here right now. It would have been easy not to come here having run a marathon, but it's not about me. It's about helping others, okay? So connection, growth, and contribution. These things on the right, all of them. The growth, the first 4 is growth, right? Running, cold showers, prayer, it's self-growth. The middle part is connections. Contribution is just my work and just the nature of what I'm doing now. So looking at those buckets, that's what we want to do. So that's habit number 1 is addition by subtraction. Now, why is this important? Because how we do one thing is how we do everything. If you're doing shit in your personal life, that's going to affect how you work. It's impossible not to. You can't just turn on one work mode and then go outside. It bleeds into it. Fundamentally, you can't flood yourself with dopamine in your free time and do deep work in the day. Doesn't work. And the reason why is because it determines how we physically feel and it determines our brain. Right? But if you're doing stuff outside of work, that's actually fostering those deeper connections and helping you, like being disciplined outside of work, that discipline is going to carry over into your work. How we do one thing is how we do everything. Bad habits, personal, lead to bad habits at work, and vice versa. Okay? The other concept is this idea of integrity. And I share this with my coaching clients, but I think it's really powerful. I said we're going to answer one question. Why do you beat yourself up? Why do we beat ourselves up? Anyone want to guess why we beat ourselves up? Let's take some answers. What do you guys think? Perfection. Yes, we didn't hit exactly what we wanted. That's a great one. Go ahead.
It's incongruency with yourself.
Incongruency. Can you elaborate?
You're doing something wrong and you know you shouldn't.
Okay, that's it. That's it. And perfection. I'd say both are great answers. So the reason we beat ourselves up is because there is a gap between the way we see ourselves, our identity. That's our self-image. Our ideas, our values, our beliefs, our thoughts. I'll give you an example. I think I am a courageous person, yet I'm afraid to pick up the phone and call my customer and have a difficult conversation. That's incongruency. I think I'm healthy, yet I haven't been to the gym in 6 months. My thoughts and my beliefs about myself do not match my actions. That is the reason. So if you want to change how you feel about yourself, make sure your actions, your behaviors match your thoughts and your beliefs. It's that simple. That's where confidence comes from. You see, if there is a big gap between your actions and your beliefs, your identity and your reality, you are going to feel crappy about yourself. Not because of your performance, but because of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Okay? And that's called the integrity gap. So if you want to feel great, it worked again. Focus on your daily actions and behaviors and make sure they align with your values and your beliefs. Okay? You focus on the process, not the prize. If you're always chasing an income, a quota, an external goal, you're never going to be happy. Because that is always chasing and it's always fleeting. Even when you hit it, it's gone. It's a momentary period of time. But if you are chasing growth, if you are chasing becoming the best version of yourself, that is a daily win. That is a daily opportunity. That's integrity. Confidence comes from keeping our promises to ourselves day after day. Is it going to be perfect? No. But instead of wasting 2 or 3 or 4 hours, I only wasted half hour. And it wasn't even a waste. I just went on LinkedIn. Okay? Or I played with my kids an extra half hour and had an hour and a half lunch versus an hour. That's the difference. So I could feel okay about it. I didn't go retreat into isolation mode where I flooded myself with dopamine. So that's a great visual for integrity. Okay? So how do you subtract? How do you actually do this? Well, if you got a gambling problem, you probably don't want to live in Las Vegas. Okay? It's always easier to avoid temptation rather than have to resist it. That's just fact. You just got to make it hard for yourself. Anyone read Atomic Habits? Yeah. They talked about it. It's a great book. James Clear. It's like you make it easy to do the good thing and really hard to do the bad thing. So what does that look like? Okay? If you're trying to do deep work, turn off your phone and stick it in another room. And close your browser so you can just be in that PowerPoint and not go into 20 windows. If you struggle with TikTok, delete TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is. Hey, doesn't need to be perfect. Delete it during the week and then reinstall it on the weekend. You don't lose your account. You just don't have that thing in your phone to distract you all the time. If you don't want to delete it, put limits in place and honor those limits on screen time. Okay? Give away your console. Give away your game console. If you struggle with video games, if you struggle with YouTube or porn or anything, put filters on your computer so you can't get to those things. Okay? I said I stopped porn. Well, what I really did is I put a filter on it and I made my wife my accountability partner so she would see if I ever went on. That was it. You put those limits in place. Okay? And again, everyone's got different vices. Everyone's got different habits. Some are more extreme than others, but some might just be going on a little thing over and over again. But it's still taking away and it's flooding the dopamine in your brain, which prevents you from doing some of the deeper work. So that's how to subtract. You just get rid of it. That's generally the easiest way than trying to rely on willpower to resist it. It's always easier to avoid it than have to resist it. That's just my experience. Okay? So I got 3 case studies from some clients. We got Travis. He was hooked on his phone. He told me, Ian, I'm not as present with my family. They're getting super upset with me because I'm going on my phone during dinner and this and that. So I said, you got one rule. When do you finish work? 6 o'clock. From 6 to 8, put away your phone. Our next coaching session, he's like, my wife said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Coaching's paid for. He paid a lot of money for coaching, and his wife said, keep doing it, okay? And it changed his whole marriage, changed his whole relationship with his kids. That simple act of 2 hours without the phone at night to be present with his family made a huge difference. Ryan is in the room. My first coaching call with Ryan. Ryan told me he was playing video games, right? I think it was like 10 to 20 hours a week. What did we do, Ryan? What did I say to do?
I think put my laptop or my computer at my parents' house.
Your console. I said, put it to your parents' house. Get in the trunk right now and take it to your parents' house so it's not around. And he did. And how was your performance after that, brother?
Very well, very good.
Ryan was the top rep of the quarter, that quarter, and then he got a job at Salesforce and finished the top rep on his team without any SaaS experience. We did a little sales training, but it was mostly habits training. That's where we started. Okay? And Matt, same thing, but I had him add 30 days because he felt shitty about his dad bod. That's what he told me. He's like, I got a dad bod. I feel bad. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? It was like sad. It was kind of cowering. I'm like, Matt's a different person now. He started with 30 days on the treadmill, and then, ironically, a big thing that he talked about, again, this is one of those that stays confidential, but he said, Ian, I got a temper, and sometimes I snap at my son without really wanting to do it. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. So that's the emotional regulation part. So Matt added the treadmill, but he also added 2 hours of prospecting 4 days a week. And he told me, and this is crazy, it all flows together. Ian, my son went to me, he's like, what happened to you? You're like a different person. You haven't yelled, you haven't snapped at me. I'm so happy. He's like, what do you mean I'm a different person? It's like the way you talk to me, the way you interact. He's so much more calm, okay? And his relationship with his wife and his family, it's just altered. So one little change expands to everything else. It really does. All right. I knew I'd take up all the time. This could be like 3 hours as far as I'm concerned. So work life. So I talked about personal. That's where I'd say to start, but it extends to work. So these are the things you need to subtract at work. It's the exact same thing. So think about busy work, immediate gratification. These are things like a meeting. I'm on a meeting. I'm busy. No, it's a BS meeting. You shouldn't be on there. Time spent on small deals. Slack, messaging, customer service tasks, unnecessary travel, personal distractions, mandatory trainings, admin tasks. These are all things we want to subtract so we can do deep work. So get rid of the busy work and do the deep work. Plan your week. Count and executive research, strategic prospecting to A accounts, developing a point of view, more time with fewer deals. Spend time finding that 20% of customers that'll give you 80% of your results. Make your list a lot smaller and get way more focused on going deeper in those accounts. The top people that are making 7 figures are working much fewer accounts, but they're well deep, and they're literally connected with, it's the 80-20 rule. And I see that across the board with top performers, as I'm sure you'll hear today. Okay? Account planning, design thinking, coaching your team and leading your team and helping develop others, and quarterbacking the vision, the strategy, the deals, executing, right? That's all the deep work. That if we're just busy doing busy work, we are going to beat ourselves up because we got nothing done that day. We felt like we were busy, but we got nothing done. Okay? So that's how it applies to work. If you want to really optimize your habits, I would encourage you to think about a morning routine. A morning routine is valuable because when you get a win to start the day, you already feel great by the time you get to work. So rather than rolling up, waking up, getting on email, getting to work, and starting from this stress state, you get yourself in a Zen state when you start the day. Okay? And there's a lot of components to a morning routine. Daniel and I talked about this morning as well. So he had meditation and exercise and journaling, right? These are all things you can do in the morning. Everyone's different, right? But if you really want to dive into this, there's a great book called Miracle Morning. Talks about the components. This is my morning routine. I have an energy shake with some coffee, do a brief meditation, exercise, take a cold shower, connect with gratitude. Thank God for all the things that he's done in my life so I can help serve other people and the blessings and all the chances I've had and all the wonderful things. It's important. That's a huge part for me, my faith, and being able to overcome a lot of the challenges that I did. And I need to make sure that is connected with me every day, the purpose of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So connecting with my faith is a big part of it. I say an affirmation or a mantra, and I plan my day. It's that simple. Not easy. Now, here's the cool thing. If I do 2 or 3 of these things, that's fine. Okay, it doesn't need to be this perfect. Perfectionism is the enemy of progress. Just know, hey, maybe I slept in a little bit because I was up a little late one night. Okay, it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to lose 5 hours, get 5 hours sleep. I'm going to get my sleep and maybe shorten the routine. Or maybe I skip something. That's fine. But get in the habit of getting yourself primed for the day. Morning routine is so powerful because you already feel great when you're starting the day, and that energy extends to your clients. See, you can't take care of other people if you don't take care of yourself first. You can't pour from an empty cup. Habit number 3. If you take out your sheets right here, this is the one thing that I'm going to give you that you will have as a takeaway that I hope you can use forever moving forward, because this has changed my life. It's called the 12-week year. Scott knows about it. So you'll see this weekly plan and weekly scorecard. Everyone see that? Page 2. So if you look at this, there's a book that accompanies it called the 12-week year. Whether or not you want to read that book or you don't want to read that book, understand that this is the main component from that book that is the application of it. So at the beginning of each week, put in your deep work here. Write out all the things you need to do, not the busy work, but the deep work, like getting ready for this presentation, for this conference, right? If you look at the 3rd page, you have my last week. You literally have this. So you can see, make copies of the 12-week year and my running schedule. Make my YouTube video. Prep for a site improve. Finish the keynote. It's pretty much deep work. There might be a little bit of tasks like make copies, and that's fine to put it on here, but the act of planning this, and you can do it Sunday or you can do it Monday morning, the act of planning your week, okay, is very powerful because it gives you structure on how you're going to use your days. The other part about this is there's a ranking for it. So you rank after you've written everything down. So think of this as like a data dump. Get everything on here, and then rank it. Well, the ranking is where the value is, because now you can prioritize what's most important. And the things that are 1, 2, 3, 4 are the things I'm doing on Monday. And once I've done them, I check the box. It literally saves me that daily struggle of what do I do, where do I start, feeling like, there's so much crap coming in. You know what I'm talking about, guys? It's like so many things coming in. Well, this is the stuff that we said we're going to do, and this gets priority. It's so simple, but it's not easy. At the end of the week, you're going to rank yourself. You're going to look at how many things you had, and then you're going to divide it by how many you did. The goal is to get over 85%. So last week I had 15, and I did 13. Got 87. I'll tell you, some weeks is 50%. That's the beauty of it. You keep doing it, and you basically get frustrated with yourself that you're not keeping your word to yourself, and you want to do better and better. So if you have any takeaway from today's presentation, I hope you have a lot. This is one on how you can work smarter. Look at your deals. Look at next steps. Look at strategy and put it on here, okay? And execute and prioritize. Just the act of spending 10, 15 minutes at the beginning of the week or on Sunday night to write your priorities and rank them will give you structure, certainty, and a plan for your week. Now, once you do that, you got to put it into your day. You got to put it into your day. Okay? So when we don't have the day proactively planned, we will react to anything that comes our way. White space is wasted space. White space is dead space. That was where I struggled. I'd have a 3-hour block of nothing between meetings, and I would just waste it. I'd go to those dopamine things that made me feel good, or busy work, or email, or Slack. But this gives me structure. So what does it look like? I'll show you in a minute. But before I do, what happens to all the things that come inbound? What do you do when things come at you during the day? Well, here's my system for doing that. Number one is I write it down. I usually write it here. So you'll see there's some at the bottom here. There's some at the top, right? So sometimes I'll have this whole thing written in. I'll have it's just in one place, though. And then I could prioritize it. And it's written down. Okay? The second thing is I usually block it on the calendar. I'll just do a little block and I'll put it on the calendar. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen. So I'll do these 15-minute, what I call incremental blocks of task stuff that comes in. So a customer needs something, want to reply, I'll put that right at reply. Even if I'm in a meeting, literally during the meeting, I'll put the block in. Reply right after. So you're always prioritizing, and some things jump ahead, especially if it's deal related. And hey, if it takes 2 minutes from now, just get it done. It's faster even to write it down, to do it, than it is to write it down sometimes. So sometimes you just got to just do it on the spot. Okay? But if it's something that's more thoughtful, you're replying to a customer email or negotiating or something, write it down, block it off. So this is what the day looks like. This is what the week looks like. It's very typical for me. And a lot of stuff isn't meetings. A lot of it is the tasks. So I have strategic blocks. These are where the deep work gets done, the deep work, right? So you're doing a proposal meeting. You're coming, with a deal review or war room. We're doing some writing. We're thinking about our business, whatever it is, strategic block. We're coming up with point of views for customers. This is those 15-minute task blocks, and they're all over. You'll see this all over my calendar, these little blocks. Okay, so you see a few of them. And then this is what's called the buffer block. So this is just things that I have to do. So checking LinkedIn, posting LinkedIn, checking email, just a couple times a day. I just have it blocked off. Okay? So it's pretty straightforward, but you don't want to be going back and forth between tasks. Because when you're going back and forth between email or Slack or all this, you lose focus, and it takes you way longer to get that thing done. I got about 5 minutes, so I'm going to fly through these. Okay? Habit number 4 is prioritize revenue-generating activities. What goes on here? Revenue-generating activities, RGAs. That's all that should be on here. Anything that creates pipeline or adds pipeline. So what's most important, creating or adding? They're both important. But this is the Eisenhower quadrant. I got this from a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's to prioritize how you spend your time. So the top left is what we should be doing today. Today is advancing deals. Anything I need to do to advance my deals, that's stuff that gets done now. You do it now, you do it today. That's the first D. Top right is anything that creates pipeline. You put it on the calendar. So you prospect, or you create your point of views, or you segment your accounts, or you find new connections, or you do email writing, right? Those are things that you have to plan and do consistently. They're always on the calendar. But what gets done today is getting my deals closed. If you got a full pipeline, do not neglect your current pipeline in favor of prospecting. That's idiotic. You've worked so hard to build that pipeline, and time can kill all deals. You want to keep that momentum. So at the beginning of the day, plan your day based on your current pipeline, fill in all you need to, and then when you're not doing that, you prospect. Okay? Bottom left is it's not important and it's urgent. These are other people's problems. Okay? These are like customer calls in, something's not working. That's things that you delegate. Right? If you got a CSM, if you got a technical team, if you have other people that can help, you got to be good at quarterbacking and leading and delegating. Right? Because it's not important to you, but it's urgent for someone else. That's the third D. And the fourth D is all the dopamine stuff that's unrelated to work, texting, distraction, social. Don't do it. That's the fourth D. Just say no. Okay, the power of no. So again, highest priority today is advancing deals. Next steps on deals, creation of proposals, following up. And once that's all done, then we're creating pipeline. And if you can fill your day with 6 or 7 hours of RGAs, you are going to crush the shit out of your quotas, your jobs, everything. It really is habits, and it really is discipline. It is that simple. I did a survey on LinkedIn, another one, and I said on average, how much time do sales reps spend on RGAs per day? What do you think the results were? Between 1 and 3 hours. Between 1 and 3 hours. That means 5, 6 hours are on other stuff. And a lot of that's within our control. We can say no. We can say no. If you want to see the survey results, just go to my profile on LinkedIn. You can see it. I think it was 90% of people said either 1 to 2 hours or 2 to 3 hours. And that's the truth. I've seen that over and over again. We prioritize things that aren't important. We say yes to meetings we don't need to be at. You've got to say no. It's addition by subtraction. That frees up our time to work on what's going to create revenue. And the last habit is daily execution. It's about doing the hardest things first. Make the priorities here the hard things that move the needle. I wasn't stressed out about this presentation because I was working on it weeks ago. Okay? Whereas in the past, I would have just done this night before and freaked out, lost sleep, and it would have not landed the same way. Okay? You do the hardest things first. It's like eating 2 frogs. If you have a little tadpole or you have a big, nasty toad, which one are you going to eat first? Well, get it over with. Eat the big, ugly frog first. That's what this is for. Okay? Another great book on anyone who struggles with procrastination. This is a really, really good one. Okay? Start with the biggest, hardest, ugliest task first. The thing that you're avoiding, because if you clear your head, you're going to feel better. That's the bottom line. And if you don't do it, you're going to be stressing about it. Okay? Every day, I do the things I don't feel like doing. That's the mantra. Today, I will do what others won't do, so tomorrow I can do what others can't do. Hard now means easy later. Sacrifice. That is what is going to separate us in this world of compulsive overconsumption. The people that can say no, to have that self-discipline, to delay gratification are the ones that are going to thrive in the age that we're in. And the bonus habit is set boundaries, because work will expand to fill the time that you allot it. This is called Parkinson's Law. So if you set boundaries and say, I'm only going to work between 8 and 6, and I'm going to take an hour break to be with my wife, right? I'm actually going to get more done in that time because I don't have as much free time to do it. Okay? So I took the old schedule and I created a new schedule. The old schedule, I had less time with my family, less time for my relationship. Unfortunately, I was working more. And I just woke up a little earlier, got my morning routine done, started having lunch with my wife, blocked off 6 to 10 for family time, and it changed everything. So by having those boundaries and limits, you actually work way more efficiently than if you don't. So draw the line. If it's 6:05, what do you think's happening on my phone? A text message is coming in. You know who it's from? My wife. Where are you? She knows, because I made a commitment. This is our time, sacred time. So setting those boundaries for yourself, for your health, for your family, for your loved ones, actually will make you way more productive at work. And then you can be present. I want to leave you with one thing to remember. The quality of time you spend at work will determine both the quality and quantity of time you spend outside of work. If you work when you're supposed to be working, you will feel better at the end of the day. You won't beat yourself up, and you'll be more present with whatever you're doing outside of work and the people you're doing it with. Okay? Remember that. When you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing at work, when no one's looking, when you're supposed to be working, you're actually robbing your family of your presence and your time, because you're going to bring that energy home of beating yourself up and feeling bad, and that's going to extend. That is what I think about when I start drifting. I think about my family, and I want to be present with them. Okay? So fundamentally, again, there's some awesome books on habits that I'll leave you with. Take a picture, grab some of these. There's no shortage of great books on habits, but this is a journey. It takes a while. You got to give yourself grace. Okay? This is the 30-day challenge. Sorry, Scott, can I go two more to give him the challenge? Is that okay?
All right, great.
Punctual. Step one, identify one challenge you want to get rid of. One challenge. One to abstain from, okay, that you feel bad about. One of those candidate habits. Step 2, grab a positive thing that's going to make you feel good. And commit. You're all overachievers. That's why you're here. Commit to replacing the unhealthy behavior with a positive one. Whether it's not drinking for 30 days, whether it's no Instagram for 30 days, and then instead, text a friend. Spend time with a loved one. Do push-ups every day. That's the 30-day challenge I'd like to leave everyone with. And if you guys do want coaching with me, you can scan that little barcode. I don't have any spots, but I'm opening 4 people in this group. So if anyone needs help with habits or just wants to learn about my program, I put a very, very good, compelling program for people in this room. And I'm here to help you in any way I can. You can just find me, see me for details. I'll give it to you. There's a lot of people in this room who coach with me, and I'm excited to support everyone I can. I'll be here for the whole time. So appreciate it, everyone. Thank you so much, and you have a good day.